The 17 News at Sunrise podcast is brought to you by Clinica Sierra Vista.
Welcome back to the 17 News at Sunrise podcast, where we share your news on your schedule.
Working in the spirit of the Golden Empire, this is 17 News at Sunrise.
Good morning to you here at 5 a.m. I'm Maddie Jansen alongside Alex Fisher, and that is something I haven't said in almost a month after we both had vacation. You had some work commitments in there, and I think we both had a few days off sick as well.
Yeah,
so it's been a whirlwind.
I know, for like literally the first time in a month, I think the whole team is back together.
The Stay Focused Ministries building on California Avenue was damaged in a car crash. It happened yesterday afternoon just before 4:30. The car slamming into that building. No word as of news time today why that happened. The nonprofit posted on Facebook last night that their office is closed for the public use and food pantry until further notice.
First responders say a man is dead after a shooting at a marijuana dispensary in southwest Bakersfield. Police say it happened during a possible armed robbery Saturday night. Officers were called to Stein Road near Pacheco Road at about 5:20 for initial reports of a robbery and shooting. When officers arrived, they say they found a man inside a dispensary suffering from a gunshot wound. That man later died. No information about the shooter is available as of news time. The investigation continues, and the coroner's office will identify the victim at a later time.
That wasn't the only homicide in Bakersfield this weekend. A man is dead after a shooting in central Bakersfield Sunday afternoon. Officers were called to Oak Street near Palm Street, which is a few blocks south of California Avenue, around 1:45 p.m. When police arrived, they say they found the man suffering from multiple gunshot wounds. He was rushed to the hospital where he died. It's not clear what led up to the shooting, and no information on the shooter has been released.
Now to your 17 Health Watch this morning, and the monkeypox virus is now in Kern County. The first case of the virus was reported over the weekend. There's no word yet on whether the person infected was traveling into our community or how they caught the virus. Monkeypox is a rare disease that has become a public health concern because the illness can spread from infected humans, animals, and materials contaminated with the virus.
And while Kern Public Health is keeping tabs on the monkeypox virus, it is not putting COVID-19 on the back burner. 17's Moses Small has more details on their efforts fighting both diseases.
COVID-19 cases are on the rise once again in Kern County.
We are now in the CDC's high level of transmission, which means that we are seeing, on average, over 300 cases per day.
This uptick isn't as concerning as the first wave of Omicron in January, but it could ramp up in the coming weeks, especially after the 4th of July holiday.
Current modeling does predict, that cases will continue to increase throughout the month of July, and then hopefully we will see that modeling trend continue, that it will decrease soon after.
Health experts blame Omicron subvariants BA4 and BA5, which are now responsible for about 70% of infections in the U.S., according to the CDC. Hernandez says these usually cause only mild infections, but it's important to stay cautious because they can spread rapidly.
We do recommend, we continue to recommend vaccination as the quickest and safest way to afford some protection against COVID-19.
And this isn't the only virus on Kern Public Health's radar. The CDC reported just 8 cases of monkeypox in California a month ago. Now, more than 130. Hernandez says you should learn to spot the symptoms.
Things like a headache and a fever and backache and body aches and swollen lymph nodes, but the most prominent symptom is the pox, the rash.
She says you should call your doctor if you've had close contact with someone who has the virus. The good news for most of us?
Generally takes 2 to 4 weeks to resolve. For most people, monkeypox is a self-limiting illness and it will go away on its own. However, for people who are significantly immune compromised, that it can be extremely debilitating and potentially deadly.
She says the virus is similar to smallpox, which makes it easier to treat.
There is an FDA-approved vaccine that is both approved for smallpox and monkeypox. Smallpox is a very similar virus, and so it is thought that those treatments would be helpful and effective against monkeypox.
In Bakersfield, Moses Small, 17 News.
Now let's take a look at the latest COVID-19 numbers here in Kern. As of Friday, their latest update, Kern Public Health says there were 1,468 new infections and 9 more deaths. That is 300 more cases than the previous update on Tuesday. State data shows we have 91 people in the hospital with the virus. 14 more are in the ICU, a significant rise in hospitalizations.
Hello, this is Tim Callahan with Clinica Sierra Vista, and we're excited to unveil the Community Health Center of the Future, our comprehensive care center. It's located right across the street from Memorial Hospital. We have every service under one roof, from family medicine, OBGYN care, dental services for adults and children, behavioral health, and much more. So find your way to better care at Clinica Sierra Vista this year at our comprehensive care center. Visit our website, clinicasierravista.org, for the latest on this project. We'll see you soon.
Making news around the state, several pro-gun groups have filed a lawsuit to block a new California law banning the marketing of firearms to kids. The lawsuit was filed Friday, weeks after Governor Gavin Newsom signed the statute into law. Gun rights groups say it's a violation of First Amendment rights. They also claim the ban is an attempt to wipe out gun culture and the next generation of hunters. That new law prohibits sellers from promoting guns or ammo to anyone under 18 and outlaws advertising deemed attractive to minors. Any violation of the law could lead to a $25,000 fine.
Now to news down south, and 3 people are dead and another 2 are in the hospital this morning after a shootout at a house party southeast of Los Angeles. Downey police say it happened just before 1 o'clock yesterday morning. They believe there were several shooters, including some of the victims. A motive is still not clear, but detectives say the shooting was an isolated incident and no additional suspect or suspects are wanted at this time. This morning we have another tragic reminder to watch your children around the pool, especially during these hot summer days, as another family in Kern County mourns the loss of a child who drowned in a pool. Officials say the drowning happened Thursday afternoon in a family swimming pool on Clara Court near Kendrick Elementary School. The coroner's office says 8-year-old Melody Aon was taken to the hospital but later died. It is expected to be a very hot week in Kern County, and many of you may be cooling off in a pool or other bodies of water. And a reminder, never leave a child unattended in or near water, and always designate an adult water watcher who avoids all distractions. And if you own a pool or spa, even if it's above ground, install layers of barriers to prevent children from accessing the water. Homes can use door alarms, pool covers, and self-latching devices on fence gates and doors that access pools. Learn how to perform CPR on children and adults, and finally, learn how to swim.
Your time now is 5:34, and in our 17 Court Watch, a woman who police say had a blood alcohol content nearly 6 times the legal limit is pleading no contest to a felony drunk driving charge from October. Police say Michelle K. De Los Santos had a blood alcohol content of .456 when she crashed her car with another driver near Callaway Drive and Laurel Park Avenue in Northwest Bakersfield. The legal BAC in California is .08. The other driver was seriously hurt and has suffered a back fracture and bruised lungs. De Los Santos will be back in court for sentencing on August 18th.
We are learning more about the woman killed in a suspected stabbing in Oildale last week. It happened around 7 o'clock Thursday morning on Arthur Avenue, just north of Olive Drive and Roberts Lane. That's where sheriff's deputies say Michelle Louise Taylor died after she was stabbed. Sheriff's officials say they arrested 2 teens for the killing, although they have not publicly been identified.
Your time now is 5:35. The January 6th committee is hitting the home stretch in public hearings after a year-long investigation to the attack on the U.S. Capitol. In a surprise move, Steve Bannon, one of former President Trump's closest allies, is offering to testify. NBC's Bree Jackson has details and conditions of Bannon's potential testimony.
Steve Bannon, a member of former President Trump's inner circle, now offering to testify publicly for the January 6th committee. Within weeks, he's set to stand trial for contempt of Congress after months of stonewalling the investigation.
MAGA is on the march. The J6 committee is totally irrelevant.
Bannon's about face comes after former President Trump said he'll waive executive protections over his testimony, although it's unclear if those protections would apply anyway.
The bottom line is, yes, we as a committee want to talk to anybody that has information.
Former Trump White House counsel Pat Cipollone sat for a nearly 8-hour transcribed deposition. Some of his testimony is expected to be used in hearings this week.
He was able to provide information on basically all of the critical issues that we're looking at, and including the president's what I would call dereliction of duty on the day of January 6th.
Can we talk for a minute about January 6th?
New footage subpoenaed by the committee shows the former president downplaying that day.
They were angry from the standpoint of what happened in the election because they're smart and they see and they saw what happened.
Committee members make the case that rioters were enraged by Trump's false claims of election fraud and efforts to overthrow the 2020 presidential election.
How the president pressured the vice president, pressured the Department of Justice, pressured state election and electors.
The committee also focusing in on possible ties between Trump associates and right-wing extremists. In Washington, Bree Jackson for NBC News.
Also making news around the country, Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer has tested positive for COVID-19. A spokesperson for the New York senator says he has very mild symptoms. The 71-year-old is fully vaccinated and double boosted. Schumer will quarantine while working remotely. The Senate is scheduled to return this week after their 4th of July recess.
A group called Shut Down D.C. is offering money for anyone who can give the locations of conservative Supreme Court justices. The group says its goal is targeting the justices for protests regarding the overturn of Roe v. Wade. The group posted on Twitter saying it would Venmo $50 to people who spot justices and $200 if they're still there after 30 minutes. It's also called on President Biden to declare abortion a public health emergency.
A new version of the COVID-19 vaccine that you can inhale is in the works, and recent tests are reportedly promising. Researchers say the inhaler successfully gets the vaccine into the lungs. The COVID-19 inhaler can also be stored for up to 3 months at room temperature. Researchers at North Carolina State University say the inhaled vaccines could be more effective against COVID because they are better at getting the drug deep into the lung tissue. It is still not clear when these new vaccines will become publicly available.
And a woman's fertility device may be able to detect COVID-19 in users. The fertility tracker by Ava could act as an early warning system to reduce the spread of the virus. A pilot study revealed the device can accurately detect 70% of positive COVID infections. It's worn like a watch and helps women identify the most promising days in their fertility cycle. The device collects information such as skin temperature, pulse, blood flow, sleep patterns, breathing, and heart rate before sending it to a smartphone app. And it turns out the same data collected can be used to detect initial signs of COVID.
Now in state news, California has awarded more than $30 million to a dozen organizations to address a rise in hate crimes across the state. The money will fund services for hate crime survivors and facilitate anti-hate prevention measures. A recent state report shows hate crimes in California increased by nearly 90% over the past decade. California has funded a total of $110 million in anti-hate programs. Meantime, here at home, joint stats from BPD and KCSO report 10 crimes labeled as a hate crime. Only one hate crime was successfully convicted as a hate crime. So far this year, KCSO already reports 2 hate crimes, one being a civil rights violation.
Working in the spirit of the Golden Empire, this is 17 News at Sunrise.
The 17 News at Sunrise podcast is a production of KGET and Nexstar Media Group. For more on all of the headlines in today's show, head to kget.com.